Hello there everybody, Adam Cleary here, still What Culture's premier Star Trek nerd, and we're here today to talk about Picard. Now, while yes, it is still some way away, if you watch the first proper trailer for Picard, you would be forgiven, or at least I would forgive you, because I'm a forgiving guy, for feeling a sense of deja vu. It seemed to share a lot in common with Patrick Stewart's last major outing, Logan. And it's not even just a case of the returning hero in the twilight of his years coming back to do one last important mission. It's not just the whole old man Picard vibe, it's the whole relationship between him and Dahj. It seems to mirror the relationship between Wolverine and X-23 pretty much identically. And I'm calling her Dahj there. I still think that's how you're supposed to pronounce that. I've not seen official confirmation of it either way yet. If you have, please let me know in the comments, because it's like Dahj, whatever, just let me know. From the little teasers we've had in the trailer, the relationship between the two of them seems vital, it seems immediate, it seems urgent, it seems familiar, like something is drawing her to Picard. Everything inside of me says, I am safe with you. It's going to clearly be one of the central points of the entire show, and for that we have two theories. Alright, so the first one I'll just kind of get out the way, because it's not what this video is about, but there is a lot of talk that she could be some kind of clone of Picard. As we are picking up from the events of Star Trek Nemesis those many years ago, we know that cloning exists, and we know that there are clones of Picard. Thus, this connection she has to him could be because she is in part actually him. It could be a continuation of the cloning story, but it's not all that interesting, that one, is it? Compared to theory 2. And oh yes, that one's very good. You see, it's not actually Picard that she is being drawn to. It's not Picard that she feels safe with. It is, in fact, Locutus, because she is, in some way, shape, or form, Borg. Now, yes, admittedly, it could be both of these things, or it could be neither of these things, and we won't actually know until the show finally arrives. But if that is the direction they are going with this, if she is in some way Borg, and that is what is drawing it to Picard, that is... well, the possibilities for that are absolutely fascinating, especially in regards to her relationship with the Romulans, who seem to be A, following her, and B, really scared of her. I mean, they call her the Destroyer and the end of all things. It's just... Little bit of a Star Trek recap for you, first of all, just on the off chance you've not really been keeping up with anything. We know this show will pick up many years after the events of Star Trek Nemesis, and it's all about the relationship the Romulans have with the rest of the galaxy. Now, if you're paying attention in that film, Shinzon wipes out the entire Romulan Senate, and, well, then he gets wiped out as well. So there's a power vacuum at the top of the Romulan government. And then, fast forward to 2009's J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 90210, the last time this universe, the Prime Universe, was mentioned, sees Spock being flung back in time after Romulus is destroyed in a supernova. So we know there was first a power vacuum, and then their planet got wiped out. This is huge, basically, for the relationship to the Star Trek universe. So, in the here and now, what are the Romulans up to? How are they dealing with first the loss of their government and then the loss of their home world? Well, the most interesting takeaway from that trailer concerns a tiny little piece of blink and you'll miss it writing on the walkway of the Romulan facility. The place we first see Dahj. She's in there as some kind of captive or inmate or test subject. Either way, she's being held there by the Romulans, and written on the wall is the words, "There have been 5,820 something days since the last assimilation." Not deaths, not incidents, not vague terms or anything like that. Assimilations. It's written in English and it's written in Romulan. Assimilations are the most important thing to keep an eye out for in that facility, so you can only draw the conclusion that it is very Borg, and some very not okay things are being done there. We actually have a similar sign up here in What Culture. It just says 23 days since the last nonsense, because that's the thing we have to watch for more than anything else. So imagine that, but people are sticking tubulars in your neck. We also see them experimenting on a Borg, and what looks to be Borg alcoves are also shown, that's the scariest part, because a dead Borg that you're picking apart and learning things about is all well and good, but why do you need to regenerate them? Why do you need them to be all alive and walking around and doing Borg stuff? And the thing is, if this was just a medical facility, you'd be like, oh, that's all right. I guess they're trying to find a cure for the Borg or something. But this is the Romulans, isn't it? They like to do human experimentation and manipulation on the genetic level and things like that. They literally cloned Picard in the last film to try and have him infiltrate his way into Starfleet so they could put a captain in the Romulan pocket at the very top of Starfleet. Obviously, they kind of binned that off and Shinzon became evil and he wiped them all out. That's another story for another time, but they like doing this stuff. There's all the Tasha Yar stuff as well. They like to mess around with this stuff, and now they're messing around with the Borg. And what's really interesting, if you go all the way back to Star Trek Nemesis, is that amount of time that has passed since the last assimilation is 4 years before the events of Star Trek Nemesis. So this facility existed during the same time as Shinzon, which means it definitely existed during the events of 2009 Star Trek, which kind of fits with this sort of half-canon thing we've got. And just to clear that up for you, there was a comic released in the build-up to 2009 Star Trek, which was at the time considered canon, but is now sort of up in the air. Basically, it details the events in the Prime universe leading up to the events of Nero being sent back in time with Spock. The reason it's kind of up in the air is Data is alive in that he took over B4's body and then became Data again. It's kind of, nobody really knows what's going on there, but one of the more interesting things about it, the one that would definitely fit with everything we know, is to do with Nero's ship, the Neruda, something like that. Basically, if you've ever wondered why this alleged mining vessel of his actually looks like some kind of jagged, pointy hellscape from the nightmare dimension, it's because it's only partly Romulan. It is actually mostly Borg. Maybe wouldn't be the worst idea to go back and read these comics, because I did a while ago and they're actually really good, plus they might sort of connect to what happens in Picard, we don't know yet. But the bit where Romulus is destroyed, Nero arrives just too late and he sees it, and he sort of sees Spock's there, and Spock had promised to help, and he blames Spock for it all going wrong, and all the Romulans grieve, and they shave their heads and they tattoo their faces, and they go to the secret Romulan facility where they're experimenting on the Borg, and he uses all the Borg technology to enhance his ship to go and wipe out the Federation, but is then accidentally in the process sent back in time. But he is basically got a big old Borg ship. So what, Adam? Why are you telling me about a comic that came out 10 years ago? Because proves, doesn't it, that the Romulans have been experimenting with the Borg for a long, long time. So that's what they're doing here. So let's review. You have a species here who is not against using things like genetic manipulation and really underhand, dangerous tactics to defeat their enemies. You've got the extremism they'll have felt being ruled by Shinzon for a brief while, and also the complete destruction of their homeworld, the political turmoil it left them with. They are a desperate, near refugee race of people who are, well, they've got their backs against the wall, haven't they? And they've got all these dangerous little toys to play with. And if you think for a goddamn nanosecond that the Romulans wouldn't use Borg technology to try and re-establish themselves as a power in the Alpha Quadrant, then you have not watched enough Star Trek, my friend. You should not have clicked on this video. So you take everything we know about the Romulans and how desperate they are and how dangerous they can be and all the weird little Borg experiments they've been doing, and then you add that to the fact that they are afraid of Darj and desperately trying to capture her and think that she is the destroyer and the end of things, then the fact that she is going to Picard for safety and feels drawn to him in some way, and A plus B plus C equals some old locutus nonsense. She is, in our humble opinions here at What Culture, probably the end result of the single worst experiment the Romulans had ever done, and she is not good news. And of course, this is where the idea of Hugh from the Next Generation being involved comes into play, because if you remember all those years back, all those episodes ago, he was the first time the show ever showed us a Borg drone with a sense of individuality, with a sense of self. So if the Romulans have got their hands on him and have been using him as part of their experiments, that could easily mean that Darj is a Borg drone with all the problems and the powers they come with, but with a sense of self, an individual out of the collective. And I don't even mean in the same way that Seven of Nine is an individual, because of course she was disconnected from the collective and then re-established the human side of her personality. I mean a super weapon. I mean a Romulan Borg, somebody who goes out and assimilates people, and they don't turn into Borg, they turn into Romulans. If you think that sounds wild, just think about it. Most of their race has been decimated. They are on the brink of extinction, quite probably. What better way to re-establish yourself than to literally turn your enemies, the other races in the galaxy, into you? And if this weird Frankenstein superweapon medley of a creation draws her to Picard for safety, this presents the show with the opportunity to give us the most intricate, nuanced, satisfying, and important character arc it's ever seen. This could bring Picard's story full circle, which is why I'm so hyped about it. Think about it, right? Picard was always presented as this just shining light of everything the Federation was supposed to stand for, and he would always do what was right by the values of the Federation, even if it meant going against the Federation itself. He had such compassion, such humanity, such such gravitas about everything he did. But the one blind spot he had, the one flaw in his character, was when it came to the Borg. For all his compassion, for all his empathy, he was never, ever able to see them as living creatures. They were vermin and he wanted to wipe them out. Think about all the tough decisions he made, all the times he put his personal feelings aside for what was the right thing to do, and then compare that to how he behaved around the Borg. All those uncharacteristic outbursts, all those emotional moments we used to get out of those stories. He smashes his little models in First Contact, doesn't he? That fantastic scene, because he is so riled and shaken by the very idea of losing to the Borg. Again, he is sending hundreds of his men against them. They're all dying, but it doesn't matter because he might beat them. And that is categorically not who Captain Picard was in any other circumstance. But around the Borg, because of his experiences, because of the whole the cutest thing, he was a different man. If they have a chance to bring this story full circle with forcing him to see a Borg as a real person, that's brilliant. And the thing is, right, Star Trek has always been this brilliantly politically charged show. So many of its best episodes are always these subtle allegories for wider values about society or politics or economics or religion or things like that. They're always trying to tell you a human story that's grounded in our reality but presented through the lens of a science fiction show. And if that's what they're doing here, if they're trying to present the Borg as the others of the galaxy, as the vermin of the galaxy, as the most dangerous threat to our way of life, but also as living creatures that deserve to be valued, deserve to be respected, deserve to be helped in their time of need, that is such a good metaphor for the Western refugee crisis, isn't it? Doesn't matter what you might think or how scared you might be or how different another race might be to you, they're just the same at the end of the day, and if you can't help them, you should. I mean, what other reason have you genuinely got for bringing Picard out of retirement, both in the story and in just the point that he's a character in a TV show? Like, what else could be important enough? What else could be interesting enough to make this show other than completing his circle, completing his story, finally closing that one loop in his character? I cannot wait for this. Even if that's not the direction they're going, I'm just hyped for it anyway, but if this is what they're doing, then I can't wait. And at the end of the day, what better tribute to pay for Picard than being the man who saved Star Trek? Because Discovery, I have enjoyed it, but it's been divisive and it's been a big step away from what people expect. If Picard brings the fan base back in, if he rights the wrongs of that show and rights the wrongs of the Abrams verse and just gives us proper Star Trek again for the first time, what better ending for that character than to save the universe in any way you want to interpret that. But of course, it's just a theory, isn't it? So let us know what you made of it all in the comments below, as well as any of your own. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sorry, what was that? Why, this does feel like it should be a That Film Theory thing, shouldn't it? Yeah, go subscribe to us. Over there, we do this kind of thing all the time. I think we're coming up 100k subs. Jules and Ash are always there doing really good stuff like this, but sadly, don't really know too much about Star Trek. I am the biggest nerd. Anyway, though, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Cleary. No, I don't believe they still won't buy me a little Star Trek uniform either, and I'll see you soon.